Hi, Sophia. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm
Thanks for having me.
good. Where are you coming? Where are you calling from? You're not coming from anywhere.
Yeah, I'm calling from Toronto in Canada, and I will be relocating shortly to Chicago, Illinois.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing about me is I am the mother of two incredible daughters. I know that every mother says that, to be honest with you, but my kids are pretty cool. So they're 19 and 21, and so they're well on their way right now, and they're actually both in university, and yeah, they're incredible. And then professionally, I think the one fun fact maybe about me is that I've lived in 6 different countries and managed 6 different markets. And then currently, right now, I'm building out a new channel for Ulta Beauty in the US. So super excited about that.
Tell me, what was actually your first job? It doesn't have to be your official job.
Yeah, my first entry into retail happened really organically, which is nice because I feel like nowadays that's just not how things happen. Everything's so orchestrated and so planned out. But I was a teenager, and I was approached in a store of, it was my favorite and what I thought was the coolest retailer in Canada. And I was approached to work in the store. And manager came up and just said, "Would you like to work here?" And I think in hindsight, I thought, when I was my 16-year-old self thought she saw some retail potential in me. And essentially it was because I was dressed head to toe in the clothes. So she was clearly I was a fan. So I started working there part-time, and I loved it. I really loved it. And I loved just being around the clothes and putting outfits together for the customers. And so, and in some ways it's super meaningful when I think back, because it wasn't just my first job. It actually opened a window for me of what was possible as a career choice, because I come from immigrant parents. My parents are like from Korea, and so we're first generation in Canada. And I think in some ways, Asian parents have this very clear point of view of what an ideal career path is, and retail was not one of them. And so I think that having that window of seeing what I really enjoyed and thought that I want to make a career out of this was really impactful. And I'm glad I pursued it now. And my parents are super proud of me. So I just need to say that. So yeah.
And so
Yeah.
tell me about all the other exciting adventures and career paths that followed you around the globe.
Yeah, so managing, I think, different markets and certainly different people gave me that cultural sensitivity. And it also just, I was actually tasked by Esprit to be sort of the troubleshooter. My job was to turn around loss-making markets. So, and in some ways, I think it's really interesting because I think women, and especially women in leadership, the bar is set higher for us. And so we're always asked to go above and beyond and take risks. And certainly I think my career sort of kind of is a definition of that I was always moving to different markets to turn around that market. And in some ways, I think it really taught me a whole lot about myself.
Do you have a certain daily routine, and how does that routine look like? Do you have time for yourself on a daily basis?
I love that question. I think the answer would be sometimes, but what I would say is, my daily routine depends on if it's a weekday or a weekend. I am very good, and Hanem, you'll be really proud of me, but I'm really good at just lying in bed all day during the weekend and being in my pajamas with no guilt associated with it, because I think it's because I work so hard during the week. So I have no apologies about lying all day in my pajamas, right? But a typical work day looks like probably yours. It's a ton of meetings, and now virtually a ton of virtual meetings.
Yes.
It's being on my emails all day. It's being on the phone all day. If it's a good day, I would have worked in a workout for sure. And if it's a really good day, I would have had a really good meal with some good wine, right? So that's actually my ideal, hopefully daily routine that I try to incorporate. And then typically at the end of the day, because obviously we have some incredible, Ulta Beauty has some incredible brand partners that turn out amazing product that I have access to. And so usually at the end of the day, I try to cap off the day with something that requires me to focus on myself. So whether it be some self-care thing, as you talked about, whether it be a mask, whether it be, a leave-in hair conditioner, that's the stuff I try to close my day out with, because I think it just, to your point, focuses back to ourselves and centers ourselves. So that would be, I feel like that would be a good day. And I feel like I made it sound like I do so much in that day, but it is a little bit of all that.
What kind of advice would you give to someone who would like to follow on your footsteps?
Yeah, I would probably give this advice to everybody, not just somebody who wants to follow in my footsteps, but and I'm conscious as well that when I'm giving advice to people, it's advice I tell myself and I have to remind myself about. And the one piece of advice that I would give that I think is so obvious, and people talk about this all the time, is to really, truly try to bring your authentic self to every space that you enter. And so the reason why I say that, and why a lot of people say this, is because it does two things for you. Number one, I actually believe that true connection only lies when you are authentically yourself and you're being seen and you allow yourself to be seen. So I think that's the one. And I think a true connection then leads to so many other amazing things, whether it be professionally or personally. And then the second reason why I think you need to try to do that is it forces almost you to get to know yourself. And in that of being conscious of, how do I feel? What motivates me? How do I want to make this person feel in this meeting, for example? And I think if you are very intentional about that, I think it really shows up. And so it's almost an exercise to get to know yourself, as well as to trust yourself, and trust that however way you're going to show up authentically, it'll be received well.
So what is the best advice that's ever been given to you if you look back at your career or your life?
Best advice, and I heard this on a TED Talk, was to let go of things that don't matter with people that matter. And I can't remember the person that was presenting, but it was for me, I think it's so relevant to everybody that we tend to hold on to things or anger, or we tend to make things about ourselves, right? And my daughter says this, which I love, and I feel like it's kind of trying to humble me as well when she says, nobody is thinking about you as much as you think that they are, right? So when somebody presents themselves or they're reacting in a way to you, and you make it about you, like you personalize and you say, it's like, oh, they don't like me, or why did they do that? And I'm now offended. And I think typically when something like that happens, it has a large part, or 100% part to do with the person, right? And they're going through it, or they're having a tough day. And I think, to try to approach that with empathy, specifically with people that matter in your life.
And what is there any bad advice that's been given to you and you think, I don't know what to do with this?
Yeah. And at the time, I thought it was like the worst advice I was ever given. I thought it was like so stupid when somebody said this to me, and I'll put it into context. We were working on a board presentation, myself and a few of my team members. And I remember to be fair, we were working all night. We were working over the weekend. We had to fly to Germany to present. And so it was just, there was a heightened level of stress. And I remember somebody in my team saying to me, sometimes you have to be satisfied with good enough. And I thought it was the stupidest advice that I'd ever heard at the time, because in my mind, I think I was always saying, if we have time, we should always try to make this better, right? And so even though I think, at the time it was stupid advice, I look back and think, you might have been right, right? I mean, at a certain point in time, if you're putting in 50% more effort and you're only improving it by 10%, then I would say, let's call it a day and just feel like this is good enough, right? But I think I always struggle with that a little bit, because I feel like it kind of is accepting mediocrity. Like, it's almost accepting that, okay, like it's not exactly how I want it, but yeah, so it might have been the worst advice, but also maybe good for me personally as a leader to kind of take a step back and say, okay, we've got this and we can move on, right?
Thank you so much, Sophia. I could talk to you for hours, and there's definitely a couple of topics that I'm going to come back to you on. Really, really appreciate you taking the time and effort to be with us today.
Hanem, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And anything, if you call on me in the future, I'm yours. So whatever you need.